अञ्जनाशलाकय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलम् श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Manah Shiksha series every Friday, Saturday and Sunday morning. We have been discussing verse 7. Are chet pratishta asha drishtva sapachi ramani ridinatet. And we have been discussing His Holiness Bhaktivigyan Goswami Maharaj commentary. Today we will conclude this commentary on this verse. So Bhaktivigyan Goswami Maharaj begins his commentary by instructions for love of Godhead. The highest aspiration the Jiva is looking is for love. And Raghunath Das Goswami, being our Prayojana Acharya, is teaching what that highest aspiration should be. And Rup Goswami, although he has given the entire science of rasa, but nonetheless, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Jaiva Dharma makes a point that how to enter into this rasa, Raghunath Das Goswami's Manah Shiksha does that. So after giving this background on instructions of love, the love has to be in the heart. But in the heart, if this unchaste woman is dancing in the heart in the form of pratishta asha, then love will not, sadhu premna will not enter. So it is important that we drive her away. So, and that's why very heavily Raghunath Das Goswami is comparing pratishta asha to a swapachi ramani. She is a dog-eating prostitute and she's dancing merrily with her lover, who is Kapata, and both of them combine and give birth to children in the form of all other anarthas. So this is the root of all anarthas. And we just briefly took a detour to Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhaktiyaloka, where some of the fault of bhakti, one of the faults of bhakti is prayas. And there he speaks about the prayas for pratishtha. And he quotes Sanatan Goswami's Hari Bhakti Vilas. And the only antidote to, this is humility. Humility is the only antidote. So, like that, we have quite exhaustively discussed the purport of asat cheshta, pratishtha, as the unchaste woman. Now, what is the progress to purity is the last theme which Maharaj is speaking, and this is where we had partly discussed and stopped in the last class. But I'll continue from this theme onwards so that we had completed up till paragraphs 35, 34 in fact. But I will again once again cover them so that the thread of thought continues. So this is the unchaste women in the form of Pratishtha, how to progress towards purity. So let us see what Maharaj has to say. Raghunath Das Goswami appeals to the minds of those who practice bhakti. O mind, judge for yourself. If your heart is desecrated by the same shameless whore dancing there, whore is a prostitute, this expectation of honor and glory, which has cast away all shame, how will pure prema touch it? Katam sadhu premna, if this prostitute is staying. And I was mentioning, if a prostitute is in the house, a chaste lady or a chaste wife will not enter that house. Sadhu premna means pure love or beautiful love. It will be repelled from having something to do with such a heart. But Raghunath Das Goswami gives a way out of this. What is the way? Sada Tvam Sevasya. Always serve. Prabhu Daita Samantam Atulam. Serve whom? The great generals among the Lord's servants. So the great generals, we saw the picture of the Pandavas. They are the great generals. Which ones? Atulam, the matchless, unparalleled ones. So here you can see uh, Sadatum Sevasya, serve Prabhu Daita. Prabhu Daita means the dear devotees. And among the dear, the Atulam, the, the, the matchless one, the unparalleled ones. So in our ISKCON, the primary duty of any devotee who comes in touch with ISKCON is to accept our Sampradaya Acharya, ISKCON founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, as a Siksha Guru. He remains the Shiksha Guru for all the devotees in the coming generations and in the future generations. And take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master within the Sampradaya. So, serving Srila Prabhupada is very, very important, and he is that matchless, unparalleled one. And also, of course, the spiritual masters also, but that is the primary. What will happen then? Yatha tam nishkashya tvaritam iha tam veshayati sir. This prostitute will be driven out of your heart. There will be nothing left of her because you will be seeing how the Lord's servants behave, how their every movement, every glance, every word is permeated with humility. So, seeing their humility, seeing their acts, seeing their merciful disposition of compassion towards the jiva, your heart will melt and you will give up this desire for pratishtha. And although they are atulam, unparalleled, they consider themselves to be lower than a blade of grass lying on the street, ready to patiently accept everything that Krishna sends to them. They will drive that prostitute out of our hearts. Then, iha tam veshayati sa. Krishna Prem will rise in our hearts, taking her place. They will establish Krishna Prem in the heart. It is a very important verse for each of us, especially for those who have been practicing Krishna consciousness for a long time and who feel we have something to be proud of. So, those who are practicing more than 10 years, 15 years, for them, this is very important, especially for preachers who have a lot of following. And in the last class, I was mentioning how one of the devotees, uh, I was with a sannyasi on a tour to one of the centers, and he was mentioning that how he has Namata preaching where he has 1,000 congregation, and he had also won a prize for best congregation preaching. But later on, because of some differences, he moved out of the temple and started his own center and took away all that congregation so that they can be under him. So this can happen, and that's why that is because of puja la pratishtha. No? In reality, none of us have anything to be proud of. If we look, there is no merit in ours in anything, but it is the nature of the mind that it expects honor. What is most disgusting is that it expects honor even for our spiritual activity and practice. Oh, see how at one place I sit and chant 32 rounds or 64 rounds. So for our spiritual practices also it expects honors. If you do some material thing, there's natural that, there is, you want to exhibit it. And that's a sign of pride. But for spiritual activity, also it does. As I previously mentioned, this is the last obstacle that can remain in a person even at the level of bhava. So kindly note this. So even at the level of bhava, it remains. As a result of carelessness, if we do not drive out this through any available method with the help of association, service, and humility, if we are taking service from others for granted and expecting respect, fame, and honor as something well deserved, then the consequences can be very unfortunate. I am a preacher, so I expect that I should get Rajbhog Prasad. So if you have this kind of an expectation, then the consequences are very, very unfortunate. And it happened. If you read the Leelamrit and the Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhav, when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's senior disciples were doing very good preaching, and especially in Calcutta, some of the disciples who were preachers, after their preaching program, they used to come and tell that, I did this preaching, so I deserve Rajbhog Prasad. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he started hearing, soon there will be a fire, he said. This is what he said to Prabhupada. And immediately when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left, there was a fire in the Gaudiya Math. So if we are expecting respect, fame, and honor, that it is something that I deserve, then the consequences are very, very unfortunate. Okay, so this is where we need to continue from today's class. But I took these previous slides because just to uh, not break the flow of thought. Ragatmika, the state of attachment of love for Krishna that initially attracts a person to the path of bhakti sadhana, is defined by Srila Rupa Goswami as Ishte Swarasika Raga Parama Avishtata Bhavet. When attachment to Krishna, to the object of my desire, Ishte, becomes absolutely natural, Swarasika, natural, and there is the highest degree of absorption, Parama Avishtata, in the object of my love, or the one I want to attain, such a state or such devotees are called Ragatmika. So the Ragatmika are the eternal associates of the Lord in Golok Vrindavan who have spontaneous natural attraction for Krishna. They have spontaneous love for Krishna, and because their very Atma is having rag, spontaneity, attraction, and that's why they are absorbed in Krishna. So that is the definition of Ragatmika Bhakti. This state is achievable, but as long as anarthas remain, we cannot surrender our entire mind. So Maya Sakta Manapartha, Krishna also in the Bhagavad Gita makes the same point. Maya Sakta Manapartha. So when the mind is completely attached to Krishna, then we have conquered material existence. Similarly, when the mind is completely purified of the anarthas, the soul is naturally attracted to the Supreme Soul, and there is absorption in the Supreme. But uh, if the anarthas are there, then the mind is holding on to pujala, pratishtha, and all these other things. Rupa Goswami tells us that the ideal is when the mind is completely absorbed in Krishna and thinks of nothing else. That is ideal. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur very interestingly describes the gradual stages of purification of the mind. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur does this and he gives technical definitions and these stages. It's very interesting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a systematic propagator of the Gaudiya Vedanta philosophy. And he gives these terminologies which are very unique and he explains them to understand these stages. So let us see, Maharaj is going to quote that. And I think this is from the Tattva Sutras of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's work. Let us see. He says that we must start our journey by chanting the holy name and not simply chanting, but chanting with the understanding of who we are. Now, in our Sri Harinam seminar, we did this exercise on chanting in Sambandha Gyan. And there are three important ingredients in it. Who am I? I am an infinitesimal soul, part and parcel of Krishna, servant of Krishna. Who is Krishna? Krishna is the infinite supreme consciousness, my master. And this material world is a prison meant for my rectification of being turned my consciousness away from Krishna. And now through the chanting, I should fix my consciousness on Krishna. So this is Sambandha. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions that we should chant in this Sambandha. Sambandha, I understand that I am a part and parcel of Krishna, his servant. If our chanting of the holy name is permeated with this understanding, this Sambandha, which I mentioned, and awareness of my subordinate position and eternal connection with Krishna, then gradually the holy name will be purified. So if we don't chant in Sambandha, then our chanting is more or less mechanical. It is filled with a lot of offenses. But if we chant in the Sambandha, then gradually the purification happens. If I chant the holy name and do not have this understanding, if I chant simply as a mechanical ritual or because I'm supposed to, or because everyone else does it, or because I will not be fed prasadam if I don't, or because my husband gets angry and rails at me if I don't, then the holy name's purifying effect will take a long time. So mostly it is mechanical chanting, and then it will take a long time. So you have to be very careful about this. If we have this understanding that we are 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair when chanting the holy name will gradually start to have an effect, reveal its cleansing power, and drive anarthas out of our heart. As a result of this purification, the next stage, as explained by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is Nairantarya. Nairantarya. When our mind begins to love the holy name and everything that is connected to Krishna. So this is like crossing the Namaprad stage and coming. This is like the coming to the Namabha stage. At this stage, we like hearing about Krishna and chanting the holy name incessantly. So one of the symptoms of Namabha chanting is Nirantara Namaloy. So that's why he terms this stage as Nairantarya. So Bhakti Thakur is giving some confidential secrets of how to cross the Namaprad stage. That is by chanting in Sambandha. Although at this point the chanting process may still somewhat bear traces of being mechanical or unaware, at least we do not want to interrupt it. So although there are traces of anarthas in the Namabha stage also, but we like to regularly chant. We don't want any interruption. We regularly want to read. All these symptoms manifest in the Namabha stage. We want to hear Kirtan and hear about Krishna. We always want to do something for Krishna. If we go further into devotion, everything happens by itself. At Namabha stage, one is also in the mode of goodness. The effects of modes of passion and ignorance are subsided. Tada rajastama bhava kamalobhadaschet chet eterana vidam stitvam sattve prasidati. So that is Namabha stage. And we are inspired to propel ourselves more and more in devotion. But it is very hard to reach this level because there is a force that constantly throws us back. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says about this level, Swecha Purvika, which means that at my own will, I can anytime sit down and remember Krishna. Swecha Purvika, Swa Icha. You know, I sit at any place and I can absorb myself in the chanting. But in the Namaprad stage, we need to be in the temple or we want to be in a particular place in a certain particular association. There only it is conducive for me to chant because of the deep-rooted anarthas. But at Namabha stage, any place you are able to sit and just absorb yourself in chanting. I will remember not just Krishna, but an amazingly beautiful picture of Vrindavan will appear before my mind's eyes. And I will see how the devotees serve Krishna and how Krishna serves his devotees. So there's natural, spontaneous remembrance of Krishna at this stage. Whenever I want to, I can meditate on the Lord's Leelas. This stage is asakti or attachment. So I mentioned Mayasakta Manapartha Yogam Yunjam Madashraya. So Vishwanath Chakra Thakur in his commentary on this mentions that this verse 7.1 of the Bhagavad Gita is speaking about the stage of asakti. So I mentioned that the stage of asakti, we have conquered material existence. We have conquered material existence because the mind is now attached to Krishna. So this is a very elevated stage, and Krishna, right in 7.1, is telling us the goal. He's giving us the goal, and how to understand that, reach that goal, by having knowledge about Krishna. So asakti is that stage. Please remember that it is asakti. Okay. This stage is asakti. Okay, there is one question. Yes, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danutnam. Prabhu, this Namabhas chanting, does it have connection with Raganuga Bhakti?
Yes, Namabhas chanting is the Madhyamadhikari platform, and Namabhashe Sarva Papashaya. By Namabhas chanting, all the sinful reactions, and the pious reactions obviously are destroyed. Namabhase Chitta Nirmal. By chanting Namabas, the Chitta, the heart becomes pure. So this refers to Nashta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. And then spontaneous Raganuga Bhakti begins. And Raganuga Bhakti, in one sense, is from Nishtha till Asakti. So that's the highest stage. And we are able to hear the holy name uh, very with rapt attention. And Nama, Guna, Rupa, Leela progressively manifest in this stages of Raganuga Bhakti. And here Maharaj is mentioning one is able to meditate on the Lord's Leela. Yes, stage. Namabas, you can say, is, where one is qualified to practice Raganuga Bhakti. I hope it is clear.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
The mind becomes so clear and so well trained that as soon as we wish, our mind itself starts serving Krishna, and I find myself there with Krishna in my meditation. So, our conditioned state is that, we are trying to focus our mind on hearing the mantra, and the mind, you know, just naturally, flows towards Maya. But uh, at the stage of Raganuga sadhana, especially at Asakti, it is mentioned what is the difference in the subtle difference between the stage of Ruchi and Asakti. At the stage of Ruchi, the mind is also pure, and the mind naturally thinks about Krishna. But sometimes the mind might wander. And the moment the mind wanders, the intelligence immediately brings the mind back to Krishna. But at the stage of Asakti, the mind naturally flows towards Krishna. So that is the difference between Ruchi and Asakti. So here it is mentioned, it is so well trained that, we just spontaneously, the mind flows towards Krishna. Yes, Sunita Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the term practicing Raganuga Bhakti, I just wanted to make it clear. I wanted a clarification for it. Is it practicing Raganuga Bhakti, or Raganuga Bhakti comes by itself automatically? And if we have to practice, then how?
What is the question?
Practicing Raganuga Bhakti, the term regarding that, is Raganuga Bhakti practiced or it comes automatically? And if it is practiced, then how?
Yes, this is a very vast subject. Uh, in Sadhana Bhakti, there are two divisions. There is Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And when one takes up to Vaidhi Sadhana, first of all, there is Adhikar also to practice Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, and whether we have that Adhikar, we have to see. And actually, uh, those who are Adhikaris are Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama. And as we gradually Kramasha get adhikar to practice bhakti from Kanishta to Madhyama and Uttama, we get more and more qualified to practice the angas of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, but they are impelled by the rules or the injunctions of the Shastra. But with the purification of the heart, there is intense greed. And this greed is to attain a particular bhava possessed by the eternal associates. And there is taste to follow in the footsteps of these eternal associates. And this happens with the purification of the heart. And then, that is the qualification for practicing Raganuga sadhana. And Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu has elaborately discussed this, which is a vast topic of what is the adhikar to practice Raganuga sadhana bhakti, what are the practices of Raganuga sadhana, and many other aspects he speaks there in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Okay. So the mind naturally flows towards Krishna at the stage of asakti, I was mentioning. The next stage is Swarasika, which means the mind never, whether I plan to or not, I think of Krishna all the same, even when I don't try. This is Swarasika. This is at the stage of Bhava, I guess. We will think of him at all times because the Leelas enter into us by themselves. We are there all the time together with Krishna. On their own volition, these Leelas are revealed in our heart. At this stage, we are already tuned, the receiver of our heart, to the wave of the spiritual world. Our heart antenna is completely tuned to the spiritual world. Thus, it always picks up the transmissions from there. There is no influence of the Bahiranga Shakti on the Chitta. It is at the level of Bhava that the person reaches this Swarasiki stage. So I mentioned this. This is the stage of Bhava, the Swarasiki stage. At the level of Prema, a person enters these pastimes. So at Prema, one enters into the pastimes. Sometimes Krishna comes to such a person and they don't know whether they are here or there. However, at the initial stages, the anarthas interrupt our meditation, constantly focusing us back on ourselves, our problems, and on our useless desires, and on the image of ourselves that we have invented. In the initial stages, all these anarthas trouble us. This is what ego is. The trick of the false ego is that a person invents an image of how they are and then serves it. Beautiful definition. I am here the temple president. So the image is that I am an important person. And then, I must be served. Others are meant to serve me. So this is how the false ego serves itself. This called idolatry, and we worship the idol that we ourselves have created. Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes a very interesting point in his book, Sri Tattva Sutra. Sri Tattva Sutra, he makes this. He says that as long as attachment to Krishna is not developed to the proper degree of intensity, and as long as we still have anarthas, there are three things that will help us persevere spiritual attachment, and that will give us a taste for it. So we don't have attachment to Krishna. That attachment is also not deep because we have anarthas. There are three things which will persevere spiritual attachment and give taste. So this is very important for us at least. Let us see. These are Kirtan, association with Bhagavatas, discussion of Bhagavad Gita, philosophy of the Bhagavata. So if we do these three things, although the anarthas are present, we are marching forward. We should remember. So very, very important this is. So what are the three things? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, for those who are anarthas and still not developed that spontaneous attraction and deep attachment and intensity of that attachment, what are the three things we need to do? What does Bhaktivinoda Thakur say in Tattva Sutra? Anyone remembers now? Yes, Sunita Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. It is Kirtan of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, studying Bhagavata and association of Vyakti Bhagavata.
Yes, excellent. Please remember these three things. We sing Kirtan, we think, what nice music, but new tune, and we sing unwittingly Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus I come in direct contact with Krishna himself through the sound of his holy name, and the taste, despite the anarthas, can be felt. So we get a little taste in Kirtan. And especially Kirtan also means chanting here, japa. Secondly, although our tongue is covered and we can't feel a taste, nevertheless, if we associate with Bhagavatas, those devotees who have fully surrendered their hearts to Krishna, we feel easy and free, and we see everything in a completely different perspective. Seeing these Bhagavatas who are relishing rasa with Krishna, we get a little taste of what rasa these rasikas are relishing, although we have anarthas. And the third is discussion of the Bhagavatam philosophy. If we read Srimad Bhagavatam or hear Bhagavad Katha, it also gives us a special taste. So the Kathakar who is absorbed in, in speaking the Katha, he's relishing it, and somehow that also reflects in our heart. So we'll also develop some attachment for Krishna and taste for Krishna. So these are the three things. Very important. Please remember this. If despite the lack of taste, we come in contact with these three sources of taste, we can survive this difficult period. So the Anarth Nivritti is a very, very difficult period. It's like the dark nights of the soul. And it is a tough journey through the forest of material existence. But if we have these three things, then we can survive a difficult period. But if I interrupt my association with these carriers of taste, eventually my interest will go away. Even at the level of Baba, the desire for fame may remain. Please remember that. This is the very last obstacle that we have to overcome. Srila Prabhupada taught exactly this, that we must be humble. This is the antidote, and there's no other thing. There's a wonderful story about Srila Prabhupada that Tamal Krishna Maharaj loved to tell. So, to cross this obstacle, we have to be humble. And Maharaj relates a story of humility, which Tamal Krishna Maharaj himself, Prabhupada instructed Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj very lovingly used to tell this story. Anyone knows about the story? Which story this is? Anyone? Any guess? Which story is being spoken of? Virendra Yadav, you must have read the book before me, I guess. That's not anyone else. The story of humility. It's very famous in ISKCON circles. Anyone else knows the story? No. Okay. So let us now narrate the story. At a time, he was a temple commander in the Los Angeles temple at Lee Senior Boulevard. Once he brought to Srila Prabhupada's room a large painting by Muralidhar depicting the spiritual world. This painting is reproduced on the cover of the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It shows the Vaikunthas and the material world where Mahavishnu is lying. You know this famous picture, right? When Tamal Krishna brought it in, Srila Prabhupada started telling each universe is filled with unlimited number of living entities who inhabit all of the planets and stars. One of these planets is the Earth, and on this planet are many continents. On one continent there is America, and in America there are so many big cities. Here in Los Angeles, and in Los Angeles, there is a street, La Cienega Boulevard. On this boulevard, among all the buildings, is a temple of Lord Krishna. And in this temple, there is one Krishna. He is there and he is thinking he is very important. He's very important. So Prabhupada, how insignificant we are is bringing out by narrating this. This is how Sri Prabhupada taught us that this idea of self-importance is a complete absolute illusion. It's a complete absolute illusion. The most disgusting is when we try to strengthen this idea in ourselves through spiritual practice. I should be an important person in this movement because I'm practicing spiritual sadhana. In fact, those who are, very sincere and honest, they will never reveal their sadhana. I know a devotee in Vrindavan who chants every day 128 rounds. And it's only from others I heard and came to know about it. They themselves will not, they themselves will not come out with this. They'll just, never disclose these things. In a sense, what we do is we come to Krishna in the robes of a sadhu and try to enjoy his spiritual energy. So the most disgusting thing is to strengthen this idea that I am important through spiritual practice. And this is like we have come in the robes of a sadhu and trying to enjoy spiritual energy. What is the classic example of in the Ramayana about this? Somebody coming in the robes of a sadhu and trying to enjoy the spiritual energy. Which is a classic example. Yes, Rasparani Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dada. Is it Ravan?
Yes, it is Ravan. When we enjoy the energy, that is half the problem. But the most terrible offense we can do when we try to enjoy by means of our spiritual activity. Ravana came to steal Sita wearing the robes of a sannyasi. When Sita invited him to take some refreshment, he said, No, I am very renounced. I cannot come in. You must come here. He had already tried to enter but was prevented. So he made the excuse that he was too renounced. Similarly, we come to Krishna changing our apparel, wearing and so on. We think, I am disguised perfectly. Now I am going to steal Krishna's internal energy and enjoy it for myself. This is what is called weakness of the heart. Hridaya Daurbalyam. So Maharaj is now going to clarify this Hridaya Daurbalyam. Thakur says in his Bhajan Rahasya that there are 4 manifestations of Hridaya Daurbalya, of weak imprisoned by the material energy. These are Tuchya Asakti, Shakti, attachments to things not related to Krishna, Kutinati or duplicity, hypocrisy, Matsaryam, envious of others' progress who lead to slander, which leads to slander when we talk badly of others, humiliate them, or offend them. Pratishta, the desire for fame. These are all the weaknesses of the heart. Hridaya Dhaurbalya. These 4 things give rise to 6 enemies and 6 waves that carry us throughout the material world. The 6 enemies are Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, and Matsarya. Lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, and pride. The other bad qualities arise from them. Bhaktivinoda Thakur then explains that the 6 waves are hunger, thirst, old age, death, grief, and illusion. So these 4 Hridaya Daurbalya give rise to 6 waves. That is envy. We envy others, right? And then it gives to 6 enemies and 6 waves. 6 waves in the form of hunger, thirst for not only there's a physical thirst for drinking water, but thirst for puja, la pratishta. As long as we remain attached to pratishta, we will never find peace. Sanatana Goswami goes even further. He says that everything else, this Pratishta is the root of all other anarthas. We quoted that already from Bhakti Loka. Maharaj is again quoting. In one of the last verses of Hari Bhakti Vilas, it is said, Sarve Tyagapya Ya Yaha. Even if a person has renounced everything else, all anarthas can return him. Sarva anartha bhuyascha purya pratishta vishta. Why? Because in our mind we come in contact with pratishtha. That's why it is called as the root of all anarthas. Sanatana Goswami says, if you don't drive away the desire for fame, you will never be clean because it is like excrement. It's an excreta. if we Even if we purify ourselves by Achman and all the mudras, if inside there is excrement, we will never be clean. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada calls this pratishtha not just ordinary excreta, but pigs, vishta. Pratishtha asha shukera vishta. It's a shukera vishta. A pig eats other excrements because they are tasty, but their own excrements, even the pigs don't eat it. That is what pratishtha is. It is shukera vishta, pig's excrement. As mentioned earlier, a very important principle is that if there is this one anartha left, then all others will return. All others will return. All others will return. I mentioned if this one prostitute is sitting in the heart, she will invite her lover, and with the union of the lover, all other children will be born in the form of all other anarthas. This anartha, the desire for fame, may be seemingly harmless. It makes the study of scriptures become very renowned, preach, and perform extraordinary feats in our devotional service. Yet, Kavi Karumar cites this problem in his Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natak, where he says, if one thing has remained, all rest will come. The Sanskrit is Eka Yoga Nirtishtanam Sava Prapati Sava Nivriti. If one thing out of a group of things remains, it will attract all the rest. So this is a philosophy. This is a nyaya. If one thing of the group remains, then it will attract the rest. In other words, if one anartha remains, then everything else will come back. We may follow in the regulative principles, but if we still want glory, it invites everything else back. The principle is simple. If something contaminates us, our consciousness, our aura, then a channel appears through which all the other contaminations can enter there. If you give little room, then that becomes a channel through which everything will enter. If someone is immaculately pure, then naturally no contamination will stick to him. Therefore, people do not attach importance to this desire for fame. But as Srila Prabhupada explains in the Gundicha Margin Lila, if a person's desire for fame remains, one may go into seclusion and be chanting the holy name, but 128 rounds or 164 or 192 rounds or 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs will not help. It will not help. Srila Prabhupada says that the heart of such a person becomes harder and harder because Pratishtha gives rise to Jiva himself, violence towards others. So this we have seen the whole flow in the previous Manashiksha verse 6 discussion. We saw that how Pratishtha leads to Jiva himself. We saw that Pratishtha leads to Kutinati, Kutinati leads to Jiva himself, and then Nishiddhachar. We saw that people who have Pratishtha will be offending the Vaishnavas. They will, in one way or another, find all possible faults and rejoice. Therefore, the essence of Vaishnava ethics is humility, and by no means should we let that pratishtha, the desire for fame, which is somewhere there in each of us, become manifest. It can remain until the very end. Sanatana Goswami says, just don't touch it. It will go away. Just go on serving humbly. Please remember this sutra. Just don't touch that. Just keep on serving. It will go away on its own. If this humility is there, then the mercy of Krishna and the devotees will come to you. It will come to you. Very, very beautifully, Maharaj has brought out a very nice solution for this deep-rooted anartha. When there is humility, mercy comes in a natural way. We will then be safe and the holy name will be with us all the time. The Vaishnavas will be with us and our spiritual experience, the experience of love will grow deeper and deeper. If we read Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur again and again, if you see a Vaishnava, bow down to him. If you can't bow down, then at least bow down to him in your mind. If you see a Vaishnava, be glad to see him. He says that a person should have this one quality, not to distinguish between Vaishnavas, not judging them and say, this Vaishnava is at that level of advancement, that one is there, and I am here. If we consider all Vaishnavas to be above ourselves, we will go directly to Krishna. I am the most fallen. Everyone is elevated. Everyone is a Vaishnava. I am not a Vaishnava. That is humility. Further, he says, if a person doesn't bow his head before the Vaishnavas, then that head will bring him to hell. Behind all the possible offenses, there is one single thing that eventually destroys our consciousness and prevents us from chanting the holy name. What is that? It is very important in our dealings with the Vaishnavas to first consider each Vaishnava above ourselves. If we consider ourselves superior, then we'll consider others inferior and will offend those Vaishnavas. If we can't think, he is my Guru, Krishna has sent him to teach me something. If I consider him my Guru, my teacher, I can learn something very important from him. So even from beginner devotees, we can learn, something. So everyone we should consider as Guru. That's a mood of an elevated Vaishnava. If someone comes to you and starts criticizing another Vaishnava, tell that person, I have to do something very urgent. I have to run. So this is what we should do. Run far away, because when we hear offenses against others, our respect for the Vaishnavas diminish, whether we want it or not. So this is the subtle thing that happens, especially when we hear criticism of other Vaishnavas. The next time when we meet that Vaishnava, we will see from the eyes of what we have heard, and we will see faults in him, and we will not respect him. And if we don't respect Vaishnavas, that is aparadh. Therefore, we must not commit offenses ourselves, but we also must not give offenses against Vaishnavas, against a Vaishnava. If we see a fault in a person, I should think, why do I see this fault? It is because I also have the same fault. So this is how we should reflect within ourselves. One sannyasi made a very remarkable statement. The reason I see fault in others is because these faults lie in me. They are there in my heart. If in my heart there is no anartha, there is no fault, I don't see the fault in others. Then pratishta will go away. So if we have this humility and consider ourselves always inferior and others superior, amanina manidina, and we will never commit offenses to Vaishnavas, we will also not hear other Vaishnavas being criticized, we will always respect others, we will not see fault, then Pratishtha will go away. So that ends the discussion on verse 7. This practically from verses 4, 5, 6, 7 is how from Anarth Nivritti we have to go to Arth Pravritti, purify the Anarthas. And now in the 8th verse, Raghunath Das Goswami is mentioning to us or training his mind that I am very dushta, but still I have the desire to worship my worshipable Lord Gandharva Giridhari. Give me my mind to worship this in spontaneous love. So that's the prayer. And that's more of a transition verse, I can say, from Abhidheya to Prayojan. It's a transition verse from Abhidheya of Anartha-vritti to Prayojan in the form of Krishna Prem. So the verses coming now ahead will be more of how now to enter into the goal of Bhakti Ras. So that we will begin tomorrow. Any questions, any clarifications you have till now, what we discussed? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhu, just one clarification. In case of Madhyama devotees, those who discriminate among Kanishta and Uttama, Prabhu, is there any connection between this discrimination of devotees and any subtle link with Pratishthas or fault finding? Any subtle connection?
Okay, so the Madhyama is able to, distinguish that he's a Kanishta and he's Uttama, and based on that, he, serves accordingly, and it is required for service. But here, what Maharaj is speaking about is discrimination not from a Shastric perspective, but from a material perspective. From a material perspective, we discriminate. Oh, he's a American Vaishnava. He's Indian Vaishnava. Sometimes I have heard, oh, I'm a proper disciple. You take initiation from this sannyasi because he's from India, whereas other sannyasis from America. So this kind of a distinction, which is completely on the body platform, this is because of this body itself is an anartha upabhavam shakshat, so that is basically on the body consciousness. That is what is being dealt here. That is not what Shastras mention, that this discrimination is required in order for dealing with the Vaishnavas, so that it helps an advancement. But what Maharaj is stating is, this kind of discrimination done from a material perspective. That is what is being Maharaj speaking about there. Is it clear, Prabhuji?
Thank you, bro. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami ki Jai. Shri Manah Shiksha ki Jai. Hare Krishna.